with Juan Gonzalez.
And welcome to all of our listeners and viewers around the country and around the world. We begin today's show in California, where a federal judge struck down Proposition 8, the state's voter-approved ban on the same-sex marriages. The ruling by U.S. District Court Chief Judge Vaughn Walker is being hailed as a major victory for gay rights advocates. In his ruling, Judge Walker wrote, quote, Proposition 8 fails to advance any rational basis in singling out gay men and lesbians for denial of a marriage license. The evidence shows Proposition 8 does nothing more than enshrine in the California Constitution the notion that opposite-sex couples are superior to same-sex couples. Walker is the first federal judge to strike down a marriage ban on federal constitutional grounds. The case is almost certain to reach the U.S. Supreme Court. It is unclear if gay and lesbian couples will be able to marry in California while the case goes through the appeals process. On Wednesday, Judge Walker issued a temporary stay until he decides whether to suspend his ruling while it is being appealed. The case against Proposition 8 was argued by two longtime adversaries, David Boies and former Solicitor General Ted Olson. 10 years ago, they battled against each other in the Supreme Court case Bush v. Gore. On Wednesday, they celebrated the judge's ruling. This is Ted Olson.
This is a victory for the American people. It's a victory for our justice system. When our individual rights are taken away, when the majority decides that an unpopular group of individuals should be treated differently, and they can't succeed at the ballot box because they are unpopular, because they are a minority, because they are viewed differently by a number of people in the populace, they turn to the courts of the United States, and we have a spectacular Constitution that values equality and values fundamental rights and values an independent judiciary to protect and vindicate those rights.
Supporters of gay rights rallied Wednesday in San Francisco, Los Angeles, and other cities. Carol Russell celebrated outside the federal courthouse in San Francisco with her wife.
We've been together 41 years. We were married here in San Francisco 2 years ago. Our first date, believe it or not, was the night of Stonewall, and we were on Christopher Street in New York when the Stonewall riot happened. It did not deter us, and we've had a very happy life together, and we want to make sure that the next generation has a happy life too. We've worked very hard for this, and frankly, it's wonderful to see that in America the system works. And we look forward to the rest of this fight, I guess.
In West Hollywood, Art Andrade celebrated the news with his partner.
My partner and myself have been now together for 18 years, and we've just gotten married a year ago in our window, and we want to see other young gay couples, or other couples, period, older, younger, to take the challenge and to commit themselves to a long and loving relationship.
To talk more about the Prop 8 ruling, we're joined by two guests. Shannon Minters, legal director of the National Center for Lesbian Rights based in San Francisco. He was a lead counsel in the 2008 California State Supreme Court case that allowed same-sex couples to marry, a ruling that was reversed when voters approved Prop 8. And Mark Solomon, he's with us from Los Angeles, marriage director at Equality California. He's been leading the organization's statewide effort to restore the right to marry for gay and lesbian couples. Mark, let's begin with you, your response.
It's a tremendous day. The ruling was just fantastic, and it really said what we believe, which is that committed same-sex couples who are committed to one another for life, are guaranteed the right to be treated equally under our federal Constitution, and it's just fantastic to see a federal judge rule that way. It's something that we all believe, but this is a huge step forward, no question about it.
And Shannon Minter, you were in the courtroom during most of the proceedings. Could you talk about the breadth, I think, of the judge's ruling on this issue?
Yes, it really was remarkable. I just want to say it's so wonderful to hear all the personal reactions. This decision was just so meaningful to so many people and couples in California who've been through such turmoil. And it really just means the world to people to have a federal judge stand up for their equality and dignity and their right to have the same freedom as other people to enter into marriage if they choose. But Yes, in terms of the trial itself, it was really a tour de force. There has never been a full-blown evidentiary trial on whether or not same-sex couples have a protected constitutional right to marry. And the plaintiff's side, with Ted Olson and David Boies, put on a really magnificent array of expert witnesses addressing in great depth, the real personal, social, psychological harm caused to same-sex couples by not being able to have the status of marriage, and really by being singled out and stigmatized as inferior and unequal. And the decision, Judge Walker's decision yesterday, he literally made 80 separate findings of fact based on all of the testimony that had been presented to him, and many of those findings centered on the very serious harms caused by Proposition 8.
Can you talk about the significance of Judge Walker striking down the marriage ban on federal constitutional grounds, Shannon?
Yes, it's a very big deal. This is the first time that any federal court has held that a law barring same-sex couples from marriage violates federal constitutional protections. It was really a grand slam on that level. Judge Walker ruled in favor of the plaintiffs on all of their federal claims. So finding that same-sex couples have a fundamental right to marry, the same right that others have under the federal Constitution, and that Proposition 8 violates the Federal Equal Protection Clause because Judge Walker found it discriminates both on the basis of gender and on the basis of sexual orientation. So these are core constitutional issues, and having those issues being litigated in the federal court system means, as you alluded to at the beginning of the segment, that it's quite likely that the U.S. Supreme Court will end up opining on whether Judge Walker was correct in his construction of the Constitution.
Well, he specifically also seemed to refer to attempts to have the voters decide this issue. When at one point in his decision, he said, conjecture, speculation, and fears are not enough. Still less will the moral disapprobation of a group or class of citizens suffice, no matter how large the majority that shares that view. So he was seemingly saying, hey, this is a constitutional issue, and no matter what the people feel at any particular time in a jurisdiction, there are constitutional rights at stake here.
Absolutely. Yeah, this case gets down to really the core principle.
And,
Mark Solomon?
We strongly believe that it's wrong for the majority to decide the fundamental rights of a minority group, and that's been our position all along. And we're obviously very gratified that Judge Walker ruled that way.
I wanted to get response to Newt Gingrich's reaction to the ruling. He said, Judge Walker's ruling overturning Prop 8 is an outrageous disrespect for our Constitution and for the majority of people in the United States who believe marriage is the union of husband and wife. Congress now has the responsibility to act immediately to reaffirm marriage as a union of one man and one woman as our national policy. Newt Gingrich went on to say, today's notorious decision also underscores the importance of the Senate vote tomorrow on the nomination of Elena Kagan to the Supreme Court, because judges who oppose the American people are a growing threat to our society. Mark Solomon.
What an ugly statement. Judges who oppose the American people. That's, I think our Constitution has been about, is a living, breathing document, and it's been about expanding rights for people who, who are oppressed. And I think there's this amazing dynamic as LGBT people tell their stories and talk about who we are. That's what enables judges to see that, LGBT people are deserving of equal protection. Our relationships are valid, are significant, are important. I'm not surprised by what Newt Gingrich is saying. It's pretty harsh, though, the idea that a judge, is sort of questioning the patriotism of a judge. But, that's sort of par for the course, I guess, right?
We're going to break and then come back. I wanted to ask about the witnesses that Prop 8 advocates put forward in the court, and also get your personal stories. We're talking to Mark Solomon, Marriage Director at Equality California, and Shannon Minter, Legal Director of the National Center for Lesbian Rights. This is Democracy Now! We'll be back in a minute.